Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I think it's 3 p.m. So just to respect the people who have joined, I think Karen, you can continue.
All right, so sure, yeah, no problem. So I'll just start sharing my screen. Just give me a moment. Okay, so my dear friends, can you type number one in the chat box if you can see the screen? And dear attendees, can you type number two if you can hear me? All right, so again, I repeat, you type number one if you can see the screen, and you type number two if you can actually hear my voice. Okay, so that I'm audible and also you can hear me. All right, so we'll get started. So thank you everyone for typing one, or maybe if you feel prefer to show emojis, you can just show some emojis as well. All right. So what we are going to cover today is basically we are going to cover Power Query. All right. So Power Query, like I mentioned last week. So Power Query in English, we have a different meaning, but in the IT terminology, basically it's a vehicle that transport data from one source to another. And when you talk about Power Query, actually it covers three aspects. ETL. Okay. In fact, there is when you go to Google, for example, if just say I go to Google over here. So when I go to Google and I type here ETL Wikipedia, so there is a dedicated Wikipedia page on extract, transform, and load. And Power Query is one of the element, one of the feature that can perform this task. So this topic is very interesting because for those working in IT, you can actually import data from an external source. How you transform it and how you load it, it matters. All right. So let's get started. So right now, last week I did cover on how we import the data, but today's topic I'll just go by case study so that you can actually understand how we can import data, how we can transform data, and how we can load data. All right, so let's get started. So basically it's the same folder that what I used last week, the same thing. I'm going to click on 10 November 2024, the same thing. And I'm going to open this PDF called BMW price list. So let me open this particular folder. So once I open this, you will notice that this is a PDF that shows the BMW models for each models in Malaysia. All right, so we have the models and the price is in Ringgit Malaysia. So the first column, as you can see, we have the series and the models, and then we have the assembly, body type, and also the retail price in Ringgit Malaysia, in Malaysian currency. So now what I want to do is I want to import the data from PDF to the Excel file. So how I'm going to do it? Okay, so I'll just put a sticky note over here. Number one, what I want to do is I want to import data from PDF to Excel file. That is number one. Number two, what I want to do next is, the next thing is once I import, I want to do some data transformation. Why I want to do data transformation? Because my manager wants one column, a dedicated column for the BMW products. That means like one series, two series, three series, four series in one column. Because if you look here carefully, all this is placed in one column. I don't want all in one column. I want to segregate one column for one series, two series, three series, five series, another column for the main models. All right. So one column, one dedicated column for the BMW car models. That means like this M1351 X drive and so on. And then after that, another column, a dedicated column for the spec. That means together with the assembly and also the body type. And another column for the retail price. So basically, I want to produce a table just with four column only. I don't want the service package. I don't want this to be separated. I want this to combine and I want to separate this. So I want to do data transformation. And at the end, what I want to do is I want to load into pivot table. Why I want to load into pivot table? Basically, when I load to pivot table, I want to know the average price for each BMW product. That means we have this one series, two series, and so on. I want to know the average price for one series, two series, three series, four series. So this is my requirement. So let's get started. Okay, so now what I'll do is I will try to open a new Excel file. So I'll be using this new Excel file to import the data from PDF. So it depends on what version you're using. Okay, bear in mind, it depends on what Excel version you're using. So I'll go to File and I will click Account. As you can refer over here, there is a thing called here Account. So if you can see Account, maybe I need your help. Can you show some emoji, or can you type number 3 if you can see the account over here? All right, if you use the old version like 2007, 2010, you might not able to see the word account over here. So why I'm showing you this, when you click account, on the right hand side, it will tell you what version of Excel you are using, whether it's 365, 2021, 2019, 2016, and so on. So why I want to refer to this topic first, because if you are using Excel 2019 or Excel 2016, anything before Excel 2019, you are not able, okay, let me just put here, okay, if you are using Excel 2019 or before, you are not able to import data from PDF. So if just say you are using Excel 2021, Excel 365, these are the version that allows us to import data from PDF. So how to import data from PDF? Number one is we must click on data ribbon. Where is data ribbon? Data ribbon is over here. Number two, once we click data ribbon, we must click on get data. Where is get data? Meaning you click data, on your left you have get data. And then the third step is, once you click get data, you must click from file. So where is from file? That means once you click get data, over here we have from file. And then after that, number 4, you click PDF. Okay, from PDF. So if you're using the old version, 2019, 2016, you will notice that over here, we don't have PDF. If you are using the latest version, Microsoft 365, Microsoft 2021, there is a PDF over here. 2019 or before, you're not able to import data from a PDF document. So I will click from PDF. So once I click from PDF, they will ask me which file I want to refer, because a box will appear, and from this box they will ask me which file I want to refer. So my file is I save under 10 November, and under this 10 November, the particular file is BMW price list, and I press import. So once I press import, you will notice that another box will appear. So this box, they will ask us which table or which page we want to import. Okay, so if you look in this PDF, this BMW PDF, we have about 3 pages. Okay, so I only want the first page. I only want the first page. So what I'll do is, I will go to my Excel file, I select page 1. So page 1 means, so when I select page 1, I have 3 options. Either I can press load, transform data, or cancel. Load means it will automatically load as a table format. And if just say I press load to, that means I can either load as a pivot table, pivot chart, or other parts. This one I'll cover later. Transform data means it can do the data cleaning. It can do the data transformation. So now if just say you press cancel, it will cancel out. But if just say you press transform data, it will go to Power Query Editor. But what if just say you accidentally you press load? So when you press load, you will notice that it will automatically load as a table format in a new worksheet. So like what we have in this PDF, over here, it will actually automatically load as a table format in this new worksheet. So now this is not what I want. I don't want this format. If you remember, just now I said what I want is 1 column for BMW product, 1 column for BMW car models, 1 column for the specs, and 1 column for the retail price. But what happened is, in this case, it only import the data. And this is not the report that what my manager want. So what you can do is, if just say you just now you accidentally press load, no worries. What you can do is, you can go to your right hand side, you have queries and connection. So my dear friends, can you type number 3 in the chat box if you can see queries and connection? If just say you can see queries and connection, either you can type number 3 in the chat box, or you can show some emoji, thumbs up and so on. Okay. So now what I want to do is, if just say I accidentally close this. As a being a human, it's normal to have errors. So I accidentally close this. So how I can actually pop out the queries and connection? No worries. What you can do is, over here we have data. Under data, we have queries and connection. So if just say you accidentally close, it's okay. So under the queries and connection, if just say you want to edit, you can just press here right click and you can click edit over here. So you must press right click, use your mouse and press right click, and then you can click edit over here. Another way is, you must make sure your active cell is on the table. So you can go to query and you can click edit over here. Either way it works. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to click edit. Why I want to do edit? Because like I mentioned to you earlier, I want to do data transformation because the data is very messy. So I want to do data cleaning. So if you look here carefully, this first column is not necessary. So what I can do is, I want to remove this first column. So I click this and I remove. So basically what happened is already removed the first column. All right. Then after that, if you notice over here, I already removed the first column, but the last 4 rows is not necessary, like available upon request, BMW charging solution, exclude, terms and condition. All these 4 things I don't want. I don't want these 4 rows. So if you notice, these 4 rows located at the bottom. So what we want to do is, we want to remove these 4 rows. How to remove? Well, under the home ribbon, you have remove row. Under remove row, there is a thing called remove bottom row. Why remove bottom row? Because I want to remove these 4 bottom rows. So I want to click remove bottom row and you will notice that a box will appear. So they will ask me how many rows I want to remove. I want to remove 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 rows. I press 4 and I press enter. So automatically you will notice the last 4 rows has already removed. Okay, so now the next step is, okay, I have already removed. And of course, the first 5 rows like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one also I don't want. I want to remove this. How to remove the first 5 row? Under home ribbon, we have remove row. We click remove top row because it's located at the top. So we click remove top row. We click this and I put here 5 and I press OK. So now we have removed the 5 rows. Like I told you, what I want is, basically I want 4 columns. 1 column for the product, like 1 series, 2 series, 3 series. 1 column dedicated for the models. 1 column to combine the specs. Another column just for the price only. So what you can do is, like this column not necessary, you can actually right click and press remove, or in your keyboard there is a delete button. You can press delete button, it will remove, and over here so you select this column and you can remove. So we have already have 4 columns, but I want to segregate, like this column, this one I want to segregate. So how to segregate? Well, the interesting part is, if you notice, whenever there is null, we have 1 series. Whenever there is null, we have 2 series. Whenever there is null or blank data, we have 3 series. So meaning to say, whenever there is null in the third column, column 3, we have this particular product. So in this case, we will go to add column, conditional column. So my friends, can you show thumbs up emoji if you can see conditional column? If you can see thumbs, if you can see conditional column, perhaps can you show thumbs up emoji? All right. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to click on conditional column. So once I click conditional column, you will notice that a box will appear. So what I want to do is, if just say column 3, so I select here column 3 is equivalent to null. So you have to make sure you write the correct spelling, N-U-L-L, and you have to make sure it is text specific, case specific, meaning to say, if you notice all here is small letters. So you must put here all small letters because Power Query is very sensitive to case and also the spelling. So the null here, make sure is small letters. And then the next step is, if just say is equivalent to null, it should capture the column 2. So I put here select column and I put here appear column 2. Otherwise, it should be null. So show null and then I press OK. So meaning to say is, if column 3 is equivalent to null, it should return column 2. Otherwise, it should return null. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to press OK. So once I press OK, you will notice that we do have a dedicated column for the series. And of course, this one you can actually drag to the front. But what if just say in real life, because when I teach clients, I notice they have 50 columns. So it will be a hassle if they use your mouse and drag. what you can do is you can just press right click and then you can just go to move to the beginning. Move to the beginning, it will go to the beginning. And of course, we have null, null, null. What you can do is we can fill down. Right click and then you can actually fill down. So once you fill down, automatically you realize here we have a dedicated column for the BMW car products. So I'm going to put here BMW car products. And then over here, I want to just rename as models. And then later, I want to combine these two columns. But before I combine, I want to remove this null because this null is not necessary. So I'll just filter out the null and I press OK. So right now, we have this data, all this as removed. So we have the car products, the models, and these two, I want to combine these two as the spec. So I go to transform and I click merge column. So for the separator, up to you. So what I want to do is I don't want a space. I'll click custom and I put here a dash and I press OK. So here we have this dash sign. And then here this one we have in RM, Malaysia Ringgit, Malaysian currency. So this is the data. So this one I want to change into a text format. So I put here as text. And the last column, since all this is a number, instead of ABC, I want it to appear as a number format. So instead of text, I want it to be whole number because later what I want to do calculation. All right. So here we have 4 columns. So like what I mentioned just now, I want 1 column for the BMW products, 1 column for the car models, 1 column for the spec. Of course, you can change here to spec and 1 column for the value or the RM. So 4 different columns. So you can go to home and you can press close and load. So once you press close and load, you will notice that your data has changed. So based on this, you can do analysis because if you see here in the PDF just now, of course, now we have the data in PDF. But what I want to do now is I want to do the analysis. What is my analysis is I want to calculate the average price for each series. So what I will do is I will go back to my Excel file. So now this is in a table format. What we can do is we can actually load to a different format. So what I do is I press right click. When I press right click, there is a section called load to. So my dear friends, can you show thumbs up emoji if you can see the word here load to? All right. So this is to make sure that all of us on the same page. So thank you guys for showing thumbs up. Or maybe can you show fire emoji as well if you can see the word load to? All right. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press here load to. So once I press load to, so like I told you, we can load as a table format, pivot table, pivot chart, or only create connection. But if you remember 10 minutes ago or 15 minutes ago, I was talking about the version of Excel, like Microsoft 2016, Microsoft 2019. If you're using Microsoft 2016, you will only notice there is table and only create connection. There is no pivot table report. So if just say tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, you are practicing and then suddenly you notice that my version and your version is different, well, it's because of the version of the Excel. If you're using 2016, it will not be like this. 2019, 2021, 365, you will have the similar outcome like this. So I want to put pivot table and I press OK and I press OK. So now I press OK. So now I will tick the car products. So I tick the car products. So we have all these details over here and I will just tick the RM. So here we have the sum of RM. Like I mentioned in my sticky note, I don't want the sum of RM. I want the average price. How to do the average price? You click it over here. You just click here, value field settings, and you can choose average over here. This is one way. Another way what you can do is right click at the numbers and you go to summarize value by and you can choose the average. Either way it works. So I click average. So right now we do have the average cost. But I'll be honest with you, this is not in a proper format. All of us are working, either we are attending interview or we are presenting data to the top management. Top management, they don't like these numbers. They want the data to be formatted properly because they don't know whether this is 36,000 or 3 million, right? So what I can do is I right click, I press number format. If you press format cells, it will format the specific cell. I'll press number format and I will just go to accounting So 2 decimal places, but this time maybe I change to 0, no symbol, and I press OK. So now it looks better, but still some managers, they are very demanding. So of course, for some, it's very confusing. What I'll do is I press right click, I go to sort largest to smallest. So largest to smallest means now my manager know which series has the highest average price and which series is basically the cheapest in terms of average. So what we can do, what we learned today is how we use Power Query to capture the information, and what we do is we transform the data and eventually we load the data. All right. So my dear friends, did you learn something? If you learned something, maybe can you show a thumbs up emoji, or perhaps can you show a fire emoji or any celebration emoji if you have learned something new? All right, so before I proceed, does anyone have any questions that you would like to ask so that I'll proceed to the next part? Okay, so I'll
You
just
can
wait for.
unmute yourself or you can type on the chat if you have a question. I think they will ask questions later on, Ellen, you can
Okay,
continue.
all right. Okay, so
Yeah.
because I see like it's quiet and so on, so maybe can you show thumbs up emoji again if you have learned something, my dear friends? Because we are doing this virtually, because my concern when it comes to virtual arena, virtual sessions, my only fear is the internet connection, whether I'm teaching, whether you can hear clearly and so on. So perhaps you can just show thumbs up, but nevertheless, if you want me to repeat, I can repeat. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat the second part. You see, now I've already teach you. We understand that Power Query can do this, pivot table can do this. Now let us go to a real case study, why Power Query is important. So right now what I'm going to do is I want to import a data from a notepad. As you can see over here, now I'm sharing a screen. I'm showing you a folder which have all the files, PDF, Excel, and also a notepad. So in this notepad, we do have a stack data. So stack data, what I'll do is I'll open this data. When I open this data, we have all this information. We have these companies, Allen and Nimalan, Allen, and so on. So what I want to do is I want to import the data, and later I want to transform the data. So what I'll do is, first thing is I'll go to my Excel file. Okay. So if just say I want to import from a notepad, I want to import from a text document. What I'll do is I'll go to data. Under data, I click get data. So remember, you can click on get data. So this is where you can import from PDF, Excel workbook. But this case, I want to import from a text document. Okay, from text or CSV. Once I select this, you will notice that a box will appear. So my document name is tag data. So when a box appear, you must make sure you know where you saved your document. Is it in OneDrive? Is it in the common folder, desktop, document, or download? So you must remember where you save, what is the name of your file, and you press import. So once you press import, you will notice that a box will appear. So if just say I press load, when I press load, eventually the data from the text document will be loaded as a table format over here. So meaning to say, initially you see here, this is the data, but right now it has been loaded to the Excel file. Interestingly, this report, basically you can actually transform the data, because if you look here carefully, we only have one column. What if just say I want to share to my manager, and I want to show to my manager the column to appear in 3 different columns. One column dedicated for the date, one column dedicated for the company, one column dedicated for the value. So instead of showing in one column, I want to show in 3 columns, and I want to show the largest to the smallest. How I want to do it? So let's get started. So what I'll do is I'll press right click and I will press edit. Pressing edit means it will go to Power Query Editor. So it is in Power Query Editor is where I will do the data cleaning. So the first thing is I don't want this transaction. So you can either remove the first row or you can use first row as header so that this will be promoted as the header. So like what I told you is my intention is I want from one column, I want to actually transform into 3 different columns. One column for date, one column for the company name, one column for the value. So again, I repeat, one column for the date, one column for the company, one column for the value, one column for the date, one column for the company name, one column for the value. So how I want to transform this? Step number one, I will go to add column. Why I go to add column? Because I want to create a sequence. In Power Query, if we want to create a sequence, we click index column. So we click index column. So over here, you will notice a sequence will form. So why we need to create a sequence? Because we want to know what is the pattern. That means we want to capture, okay, which column refers to date, which column refers to company name. So the purpose of index column is to create a sequence. That's number one. Okay. And then the next step is under the add column, I will go to standard. So make sure you select this index column, you click standard and you click divide integer. Right now, why there is two divide? Here we have divide, here we have divide integer. So what is the difference? If you notice over here, we have the word called integer. Integer means a number without decimal places. If we press divide, we will have decimal places. But if we click over here, we will not have decimal places. That means it will round off to the nearest. So I will click divide integer. And then after that, once I click divide integer, they will ask me which number I want to divide. Look here carefully. We have one data, one column for date, one column for company name, one column for the amount, one column, one cell for blank space, one cell for date, one cell for the company name, one cell for the value, one cell for the blank space. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically 4 different types of data. So I put 4 and I press OK. So right now, here we have a pattern. So this one refers to first group. This one refers to the second group. This one refers to the third group. This one refers to the fourth group. So this one as a dummy data, as a dummy column. And then I select this index column. I go to transform. Basically, I don't want to add another column. I go to transform. I click standard and I click modulo. Modulo means it shows the remainder. Okay, like divide. When you divide, you can divide the number, but modulo means it's the remainder. So what I'll do is I click the modulo and I'll put number 4. Why number 4? Because we have 4 different types of data. So I press OK. So eventually you will notice that a pattern has been formed. A pattern means 0 for date, 1 for company name, 2 for amount, 3 for blank space, 0 for date, 1 for company name, 2 for amount, 3 for blank space. So right now, what is the next step is, I want to actually do a pivot column. Under transform, we have pivot column. So I select the index, transform, pivot column, a box will appear. So I want to pivot what column? Transaction column. You click the advanced option. Don't just press OK. Click advanced and click don't aggregate, because we don't want to mix the data. We don't want to count. We don't want to find the minimum, maximum. We just want to transpose this. So we press don't aggregate. We press OK. So once we press OK, now you will notice it has transformed the data. All right, it has transformed the data. And of course, you can remove the other 2 columns. So if just say in real life, you have about 50 columns. So how to remove just say many different columns located in a different place? Under home, okay, because normally an intern or a new guy who's new to Power Query, they will delete one by one. That means they will delete this one column and then they will delete this one column. But how to delete if just say the column located in different collection, different location? So you go to choose column. So under the choose column, so you unselect all. So you must make sure you know what you want. I want this column, this column, this column. This is 0, 1, 2. So I select 0, 1, 2. So if just say in real life, you have 50 columns and you want to remove all, but you want to keep the certain columns, you can go to home, you click the choose column and it will appear. So once you press OK, so right now all the column has been removed and here this will be the amount. So you can just put this as amount. Over here will be the company name. And this one will be the date. Okay, so this one will be the date. And there you go. And of course, this one, I'll format this. Instead of text, I'll put this as whole number. And this one, instead of text, I need to put in date format. But bear in mind, the date format is different to different depending on the geographical location. That means if I put here and I change it to date, you will notice that it will have error. Why? Because in Malaysia, we follow the British date format. Basically, we have the day, month, year. So basically what happened is, if just say I change the format, it will have an error. So what you can do is, you click here, you go to using local. So this one is basically a US date format. So what I'll do is, I want to change this to a US date format. So I'll put here date, and I will change this to a US date format. So I'll scroll down until I find United States. So here we have United States. So this is the US date format, and I press OK. So right now it becomes a proper date format. So in Malaysia, this is how we recognize the date. So since I'm from Malaysia, so we recognize the date by day, month, year. And then, like I told you, now we have already transformed this data. I want to show to my manager largest to smallest. So what you can do is, you can actually show largest to smallest. So largest to smallest means descending. Okay, so descending, and there you go. So we have this data, but of course this data is not proper. Wait, let me just change again. Okay, so let me just change the format into whole number, and let me just put in descending. Okay, so there you go. So now from largest to the smallest. And then what I'll do is, I'll just go to close and load. So once I press close and load, so you will notice that eventually this is our data. So we have this data, we have this company name, we have this amount. So just say what happened is, if just say I go to my file, I click on this particular text document. So once I click this, okay, so I click this text document. So what I'm going to do is, I just want to add a new data. Wait, let me just close this again, open. Okay, so if just say I add this data, so if you notice, this is how the data is, and you just say I add a new data. So I add a new data, maybe I put 11, 17, 2024, and I put just say A, B, C, D, and I put just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you notice, this is a big number. Then what I do is, I press Ctrl S to save the document. So once I save the document, I close this. So we have already saved this. So right now, when I go to my Excel file, I press right click and I press refresh. You will notice that a new data has been created. So my friends, do you notice the difference? If you notice the difference, maybe can you show thumbs up or some fire emoji? All right. But nevertheless, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. All right. So now what we learn is, basically we learn how Power Query can import the data, transform a data, and then eventually load the data into a desired format. So that's the beauty of Power Query. It can automate a data. And there's actually many more, because Power Query is not limited where I can teach you within 2 hours. The topic can even be 2 years or 2 semesters, because there's a lot thing to cover in Power Query. So what I'm going to do next is, okay, so since I got already tissue stack data and the PDF, the next thing that I want to teach you is basically part 3. So part 3 is interesting because we do have lots of messy data and how we want to transform this data. So I'm going to click on the part 3. All right. So once I click on part 3, so we do have this level 1, level 2, and also level 3. So level 3 up to level 5. So what I want to do is, let me start with the easiest one, which is level 5. So normally in real working world, your data will be messy. It will not be in a proper table format. So what if just say I want to transform a data? That means here we have lots of column. I want only few. That means I want one column for the OPEX category, one column for the expenses group, one column for the expenses item, one column for the department, and another column for the amount. So let me put my sticky note so that everybody can understand. One column. So column 1, maybe I'll just put here column 1 just for the OPEX category. Column 2. Column 2 is just for the expenses group. And then after that, column 3 is just that expenses item. And then column 4, I just want to show the department. Okay, the list of department like marketing, admin. Column 5, I want the amount. Just the amount of values only. So how from all this table, these many columns, I want to produce only 5 different columns. How I'm going to do it? All right. So the output is 5 different columns. So let me copy this and let me paste it over here. So this is my desired output. So step number 1 is I'm going to write here. The first step is you need to press Ctrl A to highlight the entire table. Okay, highlight the entire table. So that's the first step. Step number 2 is once you highlight the entire table, you must click data and then you must click from get from table/range. Okay, I'll show you where is it. And then the third step is a small box will appear. And then after that, you just press OK. So automatically you will go to Power Query Editor. Once you go to Power Query Editor, number 5, that is where you'll do some transformation like unpivot column and so on. So let us start with this 4 step first. So I put my cursor over here. I press Ctrl A. So I press Ctrl A. It will highlight the entire table. So one thing is Ctrl A will highlight the entire table. I use my mouse and click data. So I click data and then from table/range. Where is table from /range? Well, it's basically over here from table/range. Why I never click get data? If you want to import your data, just say you want to import from other Excel file, other PDF, you click from get data. But this case, I want to just select this data. So I will click this one, which is from table/range. I click it over here. You will notice that once I click data from table/range, a small box will appear. So you will notice over here, a small box will appear. So they will ask whether you want the table as header. Well, in this case, doesn't make any difference. So what I'll do is I'll press OK. Pressing OK, automatically it will go to Power Query Editor. So like I told you, I only want 5 columns, which is column 1, column 2, column 4, and the department and also the amount. So what I'll do is, like I told you, if you remember the PDF case, I want to remove the first row and the second row because not necessary. First row, second row, I don't want. How to remove the rows in Power Query? Under Home, remove row, top row. We have a lot. We remove top row. Why top row? Because I want to remove the first row and also the second row. So remove the top row. How many rows I want to remove? 1, 2. So I put here 2 and I press OK. So like I told you, so here I want. And then what I'll do next is, this is the first row. I want to promote as the header because right now the header is column 1, column 2, column 3. I want to promote as the header. So what I'll do is, I will click here, use first row as header. Under Home, we have use first row as header. Over here also can, or you go to transform, you click it over here also can. Use first row as header. You click here, so automatically it will be promoted as the header. So now I want 1 column for OPEX, 1 column for expenses, 1 column for expense item, another column like marketing, human resource. I want all these to be compiled in 1 column. How to do it? Select the marketing, then press the shift button, select admin. So we select 1, 2, 3, 4. We select these 4 columns. We go to transform. So under transform, we can click unpivot column. Over here you can do. Or you press here right click. So right click, you can click unpivot column also can. Either you go to transform, you click unpivot column also can, or you right click the header, you press unpivot column also can. Either way it works. Unpivot column, so automatically all the department will become in 1 column. So here we have OPEX, expenses. This one I don't want, so I just press delete. Expense item, and this one is the department, and then this one is the amount. Okay, so if you look at the sticky note, 1 column for the OPEX, 1 column for the expenses group, 1 column for the expense item, 1 column for the department, another column for the amount. So now what I'll do is I'll just go to Home and I'll press close and load. So once I press close and load, so now you'll notice that it has become a proper format. So from level 5, initially it's a messy format, but now it is in a proper format. Okay, so that's the exciting thing of this Power Query. It can transform the data. So now let us go to another simple one, because all these we have difficulties. So I'll go to the next one, which is simple. Okay, but before I proceed, can you show thumbs up, or maybe can you show a fire emoji if you understand or you learn something? Okay, so I believe that sometimes if I go as fast as bullet train, so maybe you can just let me know if I'm going too fast, because the purpose of education is to make you understand. All right, so maybe if you understand, can you just go to the chat box and type yes in the chat box if you understand? All right, or if you learn something new, so you can just type yes in the chat box, or maybe if you want to show emojis, you can, up to you. Okay, so this one I got covered last week, but I'll repeat again, because the purpose of repeating is so that we not only we can understand, but we can also remember as well. So what I want to do is, from this given data, we have OPEX, we have CAPEX, we have company name, we have forecast and actual. So from this given data, what I want to do is, I want to only have few columns. I don't want merge column. I don't want to have multiple columns. So what I want to do is, I want one column for company name. Company name. One column for company name. And then one more column is just for the expenses. One more column for the type. That means like forecast, actual. One more column for the amount only. So from this large table, I only want in 4 different columns. Meaning to say, I want one column for company name, type, expenses, and amount. How I do it? Okay, so the first step is, you need to highlight the entire table. So you put your active cell. Active cell means the green color box. This is what they call as active cell. So you put the active cell, okay, on the table, on the data. Number 2 is, you press Ctrl A and highlight the entire table. So once you highlight the entire table, okay, Ctrl A will highlight the entire table. You use your mouse, you click data, you click from table / range. Once you click from table / range, and then you will notice a small box will appear. Don't press OK yet. What I want you to do is, make sure you untick the header. Untick the header, because this one, I don't want this to appear as a header. So you untick the header. Number 6 is, once you untick the header, you press OK. So you'll go to Power Query Editor. So once you go to Power Query Editor, then the next part is, what you do is, once you press OK, you will go to Power Query Editor. You need to press transform, and transpose. And then after that, you need to fill down. Of course, you need to right click and fill down. So I'll just put here, right click column 1 and fill down. And then number 9 is first row as header. And then number 10 is, you unpivot the columns. So if you have a pen and paper, you can write this down. Or if you have a smartphone, you can take a picture. So either way it works. But don't worry, we'll try to do this together. So first step is, put active cell on the data. Put active cell on the data. Control A. Control A means will highlight the entire table. Use your mouse and click data. Data. From table / range. From table / range. A small box will appear. That means a small box will appear. Don't press OK yet, because we need to untick the header. That means my table as header, we need to unselect. Unselect this and then press OK. So press OK, and then you will notice it will go to Power Query Editor. So what I'll do is, I'll go to transform, and I want to transpose, because I want to change the format. Transpose. So there you go. So this is how it looks. And then I press here, right click, and then fill down. So fill down means it will fill down automatically. And these two, I want to promote as the header. So I go to transform and use first row as header. Over here also can, or you can go to home. You can click over here also can. Either way it works. You click it over here, it will promote as the header. And then this OPEX and CAPEX, right click, unpivot column. So right now we have 4 columns. One column for the company, one column for the type, one column for the expenses, and one for the value. So you can just rename this companies, And over here, you can just rename this as the type. And then over here, you can just rename this as the expenses. And over here, you can just put a value. Just let it be. And then if just say you press close and load, automatically it will load as a table in a new worksheet. I don't want to load as a table. What I want to do is I press close and load to. So when I press close and load to, you will notice right now we have many types of version that we can load. So I want to load as a pivot chart, but I don't want to go to a new worksheet. I'll choose existing worksheet and I'll select over here and I press OK. So once I press OK, so right now we have a pivot chart. So what I want to do is, so basically let the company be a filter. Okay. And then what I want to do is the value I put at the values, and then the type I put at the axis, and the expenses I put at the legend. So right now this is our data, or you want to switch places, you can. So let me just switch place, and there you go. So we have apex and we have capex, and then maybe you want to insert title also can. So I'll just put here chart title. I'll just press right click and I hide all field, and then maybe I'll put data label, and let me just remove the grid line. Okay, so there you go. And of course, if just say you want to prove in accounting format, so number format, accounting, no decimal place and no symbol. So right now it looks better. And then if just say you want to put here the title, so I'll just put here equal to this data over here and press enter. So what now I'll do is I'll go to pivot chart analyze, insert slicer, companies, and okay. So right now what happened is from this given table, if just say I click on Borneo, we have a presentation for Borneo. If I click here on star cost, so star cost, Al Kafi, Echo Power, Brightech, and there you go. So Power Query will transform, and you can use the pivot table for presentation and analysis and so on. So my friends, did you learn something new? If you learned something new, maybe can you show thumbs up? All right, so as we go to the next level, it will be starting to have some difficulties and so on. But before I proceed, maybe can you show thumbs up if you learn something new? Or you can show fire emoji, or you can show celebration emoji. It's up to you. So level 5 is the easiest. Level 3 is, I would say, intermediate. Now we are going to go tougher and tougher. Okay, so let's go with level 4, because level 4 is not too difficult and it's not too easy. It's in between. Okay, so here we do have a data, because sometimes the reality is when you start working, when you work in a company, of course, the data will be very messy. So you need to use Power Query to transform data so that we can actually put it in a Power BI, or we can actually load it in table format, pivot table format, depending on your requirement. So in this case, we do have one column for country, one column for town, one column for January, February, actual, budget, OPEX, staff cost, depreciation. So in this table is not in a proper format, because I don't want to, if they say I want to create pivot table and so on, it's very difficult. It's a hassle. So what I want to do is I want to create in a proper table format. So the first step is you need to press Control A so that it highlight the entire table. Highlight the entire table. So if, of course, you need to place your cursor or put your active cell on this table, and then you press Control A. Then you click data, and then you click from table / range. Once you click table / range, the third one is a small box will appear, and of course you must untick the header. So you untick the header, and then you press OK. And then of course it will go to Power Query Editor. And then from here, what you'll do is we will do some transformation, like we will fill down, we will transpose, and so on. So let's get started. So first thing is I put my cell over here, Control A. Second thing is data from table / range. Data from table / range. I click it over here, and then I press OK. So make sure that the header is unticked and you press OK. So once you press OK, you will notice it will go to Power Query Editor. So over here, what I'll do is I'll press here right click and I'll press fill down. Why I want to fill down? Why I must right click and fill down? Because here I have null, 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 and null. So if you notice over here, our data is very messy. So basically from this requirement, what I want is I want 6 columns. I want 6 columns. One column, okay, column 1 is dedicated for countries only. Indeed, we have one column for countries. That's great. Another column, we have a dedicated for the town or location. One column dedicated for months like January, February. One column, another column dedicated for the type, actual versus budget. And then one more column dedicated for the expenses, staff costs, depreciation. And last one is column number 6, dedicated for amount. So I want 6 different column. If you see here, it's very messed up. It's very messy. So what I need to do is, of course, that's good. We have the country and the town, but I want to fill down first because I don't want the null. So I press right click and I press fill and I press down. So it will automatically fill down. But what I need to do next is I need to combine these two columns. Why? For temporary basis, I'll combine first. So I will select these two columns. I will go to transform and I will merge this column. Why I want to merge this column? I'm doing it temporary so that later I can transpose the column. So merge column. So separator up to you. You can choose any separator. I will choose a separator of equal sign. I will press OK. So right now we have merged the column. Next step, I will transpose because right now this column is great, but this column, this rows over here is not proper. So I transpose. So right now when I transpose, you'll notice it will change the layout. So this January, February, I need to fill down. Actual and budget also I need to fill down. So I select these two columns. I press shift and I select these two columns. And then I press right click and I press fill and down. Why fill down? Because here we have none. So we need to fill down so that right now it appears properly. And then what I do is this first row, I need to promote as the header. So what I'll do is I'll go to transform and use first row as header so that it will promote as the header. So we have this, this, this. But the Australia part is in the respective column. So what we can do is we can select these first 3 columns, right click, unpivot other columns. Just now in the previous example, we press unpivot column, but now you can press unpivot other column because the other columns we want to unpivot. So unpivot other columns. So now this is in a proper format. And then over here, you can split this column. So split column by delimiter, and then you can just press OK. And then there you go. And these 2 columns, what you can do is you can bring forward. So you can actually move in the front. So move to beginning. There you go. So like I told you, what I want is 1 column for countries, 1 column for town, 1 column for months, type, and also the expenses and the amount. All right. So of course you can rename later. I will rename later. So I'll just go to home and I press close and load. So once I press close and load, so eventually you'll notice initially it is in this format. But right now, it has transformed into a table format. So that's the exciting thing. So it actually gives us how Power Query is very good in transforming data. Because like what we learn is like, I mean, a few weeks ago, I taught pivot table. Pivot table is mainly for summary and analysis. Of course, you can also do presentation as well. But when it comes to Power Query, it just involves 3 main things, which is extract, it can import data, it can transform data. That is the biggest portion, the biggest chunk of Power Query, and it can load data either in table format, pivot chart. It depends on your requirement, how you want to present the data. All right. And of course, there's also other topics like VBA, financial modeling. So this Power Query, of course, there's good, bad, and ugly. Of course, VBA is in a different universe, but when it comes to Power Query, it's all about ETL. That means you can extract data, transform data, and load data. All right. So before I proceed, maybe can you show thumbs up so that I will go to the next part. The next part is not so difficult, but it's little bit harder. Okay. So can you show some thumbs up so that I can proceed to the next part? Because the next part is not extremely difficult, but it's little bit harder. Okay. So now I will try to go to level 1. Okay, the level 2 is, I wouldn't say it's the most difficult, but of course, in the process of understanding, digesting, this is the difficult part. So let me go to the little bit easier, which is level 1. So sometimes when you work in a company, your Excel report will not be in a proper format. So what you can do is basically in this particular case, how we can actually make sure that we only have 4 segregated columns, because here we have employee name, employee name, employee name, employee ID, employee ID, employee ID. And then after that, we also have join date, join date, join date, and annual salary, annual salary, annual salary. So we have this data appearing multiple times. I only want in 4 different columns. How to do it? If you remember just now we did an exercise on the stack data. Something like that. We will try to create the insert column, index column, modulo, divide, integer, similar like that. So what I'll do is, I will just write down the notes. So I want 4 different columns. One column is for the name, one column for the ID, one column for the date, one column for the salary. And just 4 different columns, not like this. So I'm just going to copy the notes. So let me just go to the notes over here. So this is the notes. So let me just copy this and paste it over here. So the notes is over here. First step is Control A, highlight the entire table. Click data from table/range. A small box will appear. Okay, this one you must make sure that you untick. That means you untick the header and then you press OK. Pressing OK, you'll go to Power Query Editor. All right. Then after that, what you can do is number 5, you must actually transpose the table. Transpose the table. Where is transpose? Is under transform. Okay, that means under transpose, under transform, you go to transpose the table. Number 6, you click index column. That means add column. And then after that, index column. So the index column will serve as a dummy column. And then from here, we will try to unpivot other column. Unpivot other column. And then eventually you'll see the steps is more or less same like what we did just now. So let's get started. So first thing is I highlight the data and I press Control A. And then what I'll do is I will go to data from table/range, and like I told you, I don't press OK yet. I never press OK. Untick the header. Untick the header, press OK. So once you press OK, you will notice that eventually it will go to Power Query Editor. So if you remember just now, what my note says is I go to transform and transpose. Transpose over here. So it will transpose the data. And then after that, what I want to do is basically I will promote the first row as header because I just want to put the first row as a header. So employee name, employee ID, join date, anniversary. So this is what I want. But unfortunately, we have multiple employee name. You also got employee name. You also got employee name. So how I want to put these names over here? Okay, so I start with add column, index column. So index column, this one serves as a dummy column. I press right click. I will go to unpivot other columns. So when I press unpivot other columns, so now it will become in this particular format. So what I'll do is I will remove these 2 columns and I press delete. Okay. So if you remember just now, I did an example where I will index column, then I put divide integer, same thing. I click index column. So let we have a sequence. And then from here, what I want to do is under add column, standard, divide integer. If you remember just now, I did an example similar to this, divide integer. Why I choose divide integer, not divide? Because divide integer will show the numbers without decimal places. Integer only. Here will only have decimal places. So divide integer, and then in this case, what number I want to divide? Okay, we have one for company, one for the employee name, one for the ID, one for the date, one for the salary, one for the name, one for the ID, one for the date, one for the salary. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 different columns and press OK. So now we have like a pattern, and then select index, transform, standard, modulo. Okay, so why modulo is because I want to create a pattern. Modulo means you'll check the remainder. So I'll click modulo and I press 4 and I press enter. So right now we have a pattern, 0 for the name, 0 for the name, 1 for the ID, 1 for the ID, 2 for the date, 2 for the date, and last one for the salary. So what I'll do next is I'll select this column, pivot column, and then what I'll do is based on the pivot column on the value column, don't aggregate and press OK. So just like that, our data has changed accordingly. And then of course you can remove this column. This is not necessary. And there you go. So here we have this one. I'll just put here name. And here I just want to put this is the ID. This is the join date. And then last one is for the amount. Okay. So this one I want to put it as a whole number. This is a salary. Okay, so I'll just put here salary. Okay, and then this one, it will be in a date format. And then this one is just let it be as whole number. This one is text. All right, so this is our data. And then you can just go to home and press close and load. So there you go. So eventually your data will be loaded in this proper format. So basically that's the thing. You can actually transform the data, transpose the data and so on. Because initially this is our data, very messy. But now we have transformed the data. Okay, so that's the beauty of Power Query actually. What I'm teaching you is basically like 10%, 20%, 15%. Because like I told you, Power Query is not enough for 2 hours, 2 semesters, 2 years to understand what is Power Query. Now you are looking like a trailer because there's a lot of things that can be covered in the main picture. All right, so now I'll go to the most difficult part, which is level 2. So level 2, sometimes the report is very, very confusing because if you see here we have one column for repairing work. Here we have one column for details. Here we have date, we have client. We have date, we have client, we have date, we have client. So the data is actually not in a proper format. I want one particular column for date, one particular column for client, not appear multiple times. So what you can do is you can actually use Power Query to clean the data. So I'll just copy the notes. Okay, let me just copy the notes and paste it over here. So this time you can actually tick the data. Okay, so this one is a bit different. You can actually tick the data. Why you can tick the header? Because this is your header actually. All right. So Control A, it will highlight the entire table. Click data. So you click the data. Get from table/range. Get from table/range. So table/range. A small box will appear. So you can tick the header. So automatically you can press OK. So eventually it will appear in this format. Then what I'll do is I will select these 2 columns. Because why I will select these 2 columns? What I want is I only want 4 columns. Okay, I'll just put the notes. I only want 4 columns only, whereby 1 column for the repair, 1 column for the details, and 1 column for the date, 1 column for the client. But unfortunately, the date, the client appear many times. So how I want to put the date and client only appear 1 time? Because the date and client appear many times. So what I'll do is I select these first 2 columns, right click, unpivot other column, and it will be in this format. Then you just remove this column and you will just do like what we did just now. We go to add column, we click index column. So we have a pattern over here. And then we go to standard and then we choose divide integer. But what number we want to divide? Well, 1 column for date, 1 column for company, 1 column for date, 1 column for company, 1 column for date, 1 column for company. So basically 2 different types of data. So I select this standard, divide integer, and I divided by number 2. Why number 2? Because 2 different types of data. So 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Select this column, transform, standard, and then modulo, and I press 2, I press OK. So right now we do have a pattern, and then pivot column, and I choose values because I want to transform this particular column. Here, make sure you don't press OK immediately. Make sure it's don't aggregate so that it doesn't mix up, and I press OK. So right now, here you go. So this column you can remove. This column you can change into date format. This one you can put into a company. So I'll put here ABC text. So this one I'll name it as date. This one you want to name it as client or company, depends on your requirement. And you just press home and you press close and load. So just like that, there you go. So it will show into this format. So this is how you can play around Power Query. So Power Query, what I show you is 5 different levels. So you can actually practice eventually later. So like level 5, we do have a very messy data, but in table 1, we see in this particular format. In table 4, what happened is, sorry, in level 4, we have this particular table. Thanks to Power Query, we managed to actually transform the data. In level 3, we have this table format. We can eventually load as a pivot chart. And level 2, we have just changed the format into this particular format. And same thing goes to level 1, where we just changed into particular format. So we can, what we learned today is, we learn how Power Query can import a data, can transform a data, and can also load a data. So my friends, did you learn something? Maybe can you show thumbs up if you learned something before we go to the final part? All right, so I'll just go to the final part. The final part is part 2 because I got cover part 1. So let us go to part 2. So basically what we can do in part 2 is very simple. It's about merge and append. So let me click part 2. So when I go to part 2, okay, so this one I really need your help. So if you see here, we have part 3A and part 3B. Okay, we have part 3A, part 3B. So what I'll do is maybe I'll go to another Excel file. Okay, so maybe not here, maybe this Excel file. I go to data, I go to get data from file, Excel workbook. Okay, I will select part 2. I press import. And then when I press import, so I want to import 3A, 3B, 4A, 4B. So I'll just select this 3A, 3B, 4A, 4B. So I will just want to select this and then I want to go to transform data. So I'll go to transform data so that it will go to Power Query Editor automatically. Okay, right now let us start with part 3A. In part 3A, we have customer ID, we have company name, we have first name, we have last name, we have email, and so on. In part 3B, we have customer ID, we have industry, we have location, we have annual revenue. Okay, again I repeat, in part 3A, we have customer ID, company name, first name. In part 3B, we have this information like customer name, customer ID, industry. So now I need the help from the attendees, audience, ladies and gentlemen. So can you go to the chat box or chat section? Can you tell me in part 3A and part 3B, what is the common column? What is the similar column? So you can just answer in the chat box. So in part 3A and part 3B, what is the common column? Or which column is the similar? Meaning if you look at part 3A, we have company name, we have, okay, so thank you Grispo for typing. So in 3A, we have customer ID. In 3B, we also have customer ID. So like how in normal Excel, we have VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, Power Query also can combine tables. So for example, I just select this part 3A. I want to combine this table. So under home, I will click on merge query. Okay, merge query means it will go as the existing one. If you want to create a new one, it will create another database. So I'll select merge query. So merge query, what it will do is it can combine the table. The word merge means combine the table based on a similar one column. So I'll just select part 3B. So 3A and 3B. But if you notice, I'm not able to press OK. So I must select this column and I must select this column. So the selection matches 20 out of 20. I press OK. So once I press OK, so right now what I need to do is we have already added part 3B. I need to expand the table. So expand the table. I will just unselect the original name because I want to follow this particular name, and I want to select customer ID because customer ID already exists. So now I press OK. So now when I press OK, you will notice that in the first column, customer ID, company name. So when I scroll to the right, you will see we have industry, location, and revenue. So what we learn is we can also use Power Query to merge two different tables. Power Query not only can do transformation like unpivot or first row, etc. It can also merge the two tables. All right. So now let me go to part 3B, sorry, part 4A, so that you can understand. So for part 4A and part 4B, if you notice carefully, part 4A, we have invoice, we have customer, we have product. Part 4B, we have invoice, date, customer, and contact. So what we can do is we can also append. We can also combine up and down. So what we do is we can just click here, append queries as new. So what happens is we can append the two queries. So this one I select 4A and here I select 4B. So we can append two different tables, or we can also append 3 or more tables. Depends on your requirement. So I press OK. So automatically what happens is it will append the two tables. So over here you have September and I scroll down. Over here you have October. So that's the thing of Power Query. Not only it can merge, not only it can transform, it can also append the data. It can combine up and down. All right. So my friends, do you understand? If you understand, maybe can you show thumbs up? Just let me know if I'm going too fast. All right. So I have already covered on what is Power Query. For some, it's too advanced. For some, it's maybe too easy, depending on your requirement, on your level. But in what we can learn in Power Query is we can import data, we can transform data, and we can also load data. Right? So I have already, ended the session. So maybe now I can pass the session to Crispo. So Crispo, over to you. Okay, so it depends. So where you want to reach me, you can reach me in LinkedIn, or you can even reach me in YouTube as well.